The WWE and the United States military have a long and assorted history together. But what do actual military personnel think about this relationship? Now, personally, I can't speak to that, but I do know somebody who can, and he might be just a little familiar to some of you. And that's the subject of this episode, because today... A huge thank you to my awesome Patreon supporters, True Sinister, Dakari Garmin, and Mr. J, as well as everyone else who is helping me out on my Patreon page. You could do the same by signing up yourself, or just being subscribed to this channel and giving this video a like. Either way, the support is greatly appreciated. Much love. Alright, welcome back to Dave Knows Wrestling. I am David Lee, your host, and with me, it's about time. You haven't been on the channel in a while, Mr. Stephen James. Today, we're going to be talking about WWE and their relationship with the United States military. So, for starters, for those of you who don't know, Steve has a military background. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I was in the military from mid-2005 to 2013. A couple of deployments to Iraq.
All right, well, thank you for having us, and thank you for your service.
Don't do that.
You don't like that?
I don't think anybody... how do you respond to that? You're welcome? You can't really respond to that. I'll just take my free appetizers on Veterans Day, and we'll call it a day. That's the way you can thank me, Applebee's.
And see, that's exactly what I want to hear, because, you know, when it comes to military and it comes to people in general, as you've said, people are individuals, but we always have these, ideas that everybody thinks this, everyone does that, anyone from here always says this. So I want to talk about specific things in WWE and their military history. So The first thing I want to talk about is tribute to the troops. How do you feel? Do you feel tributed?
It's like anything else. It's a business. They're trying to get a certain portion of their audience to be like, hey, here's this thing that we're attaching ourselves to. But having been somebody who had the opportunity to go to one of the tribute of the troops in Iraq, that's something I don't see a lot of other businesses. I don't see the NBA. I don't see the MLB. I don't see the hockey teams. I don't see anybody else really going out there to, back up the talk that they talk. So in that instance, if they had never gone overseas and done those overseas trips and just did it stateside, then I'd be like, yeah, whatever. But they did. They all got on a plane. They all went to, mind you, a lot of those places were green zones, so they were a bit more safe, obviously, than other places in country. But they definitely walked the walk and talked the talk there. So I actually think it's a good idea. And they do a lot of stuff with Fisher House, which is a great charity for military families. They did do stuff with Wounded Warrior Project, which isn't exactly one that has the best track record as far as how much money goes where. To people, it's like CEOs get this much, and then whatever's left goes to the actual people that you're donating to. So yeah, I think it's ultimately a good thing.
What do you think WWE has as rich of a history with supporting the troops and all that?
If I'm not mistaken, I know Vince went to military school.
Yeah.
I believe there are some folks in his family that also served in the military. It could be as simple as that. It's also smart business, because that's an entire section of folks who are a different demographic. Like, look, folks, we, especially when you're active and you're in it, we live a different lifestyle. We speak different. We have different terms for things, acronyms. We love them. So that's a portion of a business's spending power that they can now take, because nobody else is doing it.
Sure,
no one else is in the market
that's
space.
my question. Even UFC, I mean,
Sure.
now things have changed. Now they're together. But even UFC, I don't, as far as I know, doesn't.
They've done some stuff,
but not to the level
not
that
to the
WWE
level.
is.
When you're there first, sometimes you get to be there best and have control of the marketplace. Where the point of entry is, no, I have these contacts. I built this relationship with folks. So they're going to come to you first because you're a proven commodity. You understand how, and the military with some stuff are two things. They like to give to the lowest bidder because they like to be cheap. And they like people who understand their process and don't, much like WWE. If you're going to come in, you're going to do the bit.
Right.
This is the way we do things. Do it our way. And then we can kind of figure out how to put your spin on it. Military's the same thing, except for that last part. Just do it our way.
Somehow, I didn't know this, that you had the opportunity to go to a tribute.
Yeah, I think it was 2006 Camp Victory in Baghdad.
No kidding.
Yeah, I have a coin, like a challenge coin. Like military has like challenge coins and stuff that they give to folks for Here, you did a good job. Instead of getting more pay, here's a brass coin to show at a bar. Great, thanks.
I can't believe I never knew that. Or even thought to ask.
Well, it's just not something that comes up.
Okay, but you talked about how they actually went overseas instead of staying stateside.
Yeah.
So,
which they do now because obviously it's a much different situation.
Right, so how do you feel about that? Should they just stop it, or is it okay that they do it stateside?
It's okay that they do it stateside because right now we're not in a combat like op tempo where we're overseas in a foreign country, and it's a lot less glamorous when there's not a war for people, for businesses. Like, we're the break glass in case of emergency, and then once the emergency's over, it's go right back in your case. We'll see you in 4 to 8 years. We'll see you in a couple of decades. Oh, the draft. Send them. So.
Okay, so you're okay with them doing it in bases stateside.
Yeah.
But here's my question. So, like 2020, when it was Thunderdome period, was there really a difference? What was the point of doing that?
There was none, but I think if they didn't, at this point, they're locked in.
Yeah.
If they don't do it for a year, then you have people on the extreme side of, the military family going, they don't care about us anymore. They've forgotten us. What are we going to do now?
That's how military people sound?
Sometimes. Sometimes. I've been in those PXs. I've been in those shopettes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you think they'll forever do it?
I'll never say forever, but I think that they'll try to maintain that because it's also like they have to tape content for their Christmas break anyway. So that's why kind of they have it there too. They're taping stuff anyway. Yeah. Oh, let's slap something on an LED that says tribute to the troops. It's so low effort at this point that it's the minimum entry to do it. Yeah. It's like, reach out to somebody, get somebody sitting in the front row. There you go.
Do you feel it's lost something?
Sure. I mean, by the nature of the fact that the time that we're in now, there is no war. People are not overseas right now, missing their families, not really having an ability to have a certain level of entertainment, especially live entertainment, with the exception of whatever folks come through on the USO and on the USO tours. And some of those tours don't reach certain areas. At least with WWE, while they were in some of the safer areas, some of them went and they did meet and greets in various remote places, not even just in the safe zone. So, of course, it's going to lose a little bit of that oomph and that luster when you don't have the backdrop. Like, how cool was it to see it in Iraq with the background? You had the year with, what was it, Santa Claus? Or was it Big Show was Santa Claus or something?
Who wasn't Santa Claus at this point?
It's fair. I think it might have been Austin. Yeah, who hasn't been Santa Claus? Now, there's a video for you. Who has and hasn't been Santa Claus? There's been plenty of Grinches.
I'm kind of surprised that we've never gotten, like, a major event happening at a Tribute Truths, like a title change or something of some importance. I just figured, in all the years it's been a thing, I figured it happened at least once.
If they were gonna do it, it probably would have been while overseas, while in Iraq, and I think that would have been a fun move.
John Cena, after he filmed the Marine movie, adopted something of a Marine gimmick with the saluting and wearing a camo and all that. I know some people who really didn't take very kindly to that. What are your personal feelings on it?
Should I get mad at Tom Cruise in Top Gun because he's not an Air Force pilot? Why do movies get that grace, but wrestling never does?
Never.
I don't care. He's not out there hurting anybody. If he was wearing a full Marine dress uniform and coming out there and saying he's a Marine and doing all that stuff, then I would be like, all right, that's a little scummy. That's not cool. But he's wearing camo jorts. If you are naive enough to think that in the military, someone would be wearing camo jorts, you deserve to be offended. You deserve it. Ooh, let me get my military-issued keds.
I knew a former Army person who specifically said that he felt that the salute, though, is something that only military should do to each other.
Well,
non-military personnel has no business saluting.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Within the context, if you're a military member and you're saluting somebody within the context of saluting another military member, then there are standards. There are DNC, drill and ceremony standards and things that you have to do. And that's where if you don't do those things right, then you can be like, all right, fix yourself. Or as they say, un-F yourself. Then that's fine because they're operating under the context of being in the military. Bro, they're actors. They're athletic actors.
Oh, no, there are people who get offended at that.
Let them. This is why, and it's a lot of wrestling fans and some people who take it too seriously that don't allow people to get that grace that movies get. If you want it, you have to also play the game a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one is saying by saying athletic actors that they're not physical or it doesn't take a toll on their body and it's not real. Movies, they physically made something. They're acting. But they're still doing the thing. It's not a fake movie. Don't get me started.
That's the whole point of this. I'm trying to get
There, I'm started.
Now let's go on the reverse thing.
Sure.
To the other side of the John Cena coin. How about Randy Orton?
See, Randy's a totally different situation, and he's also not representing himself as somebody from the military because they did the thing where they talked about it, and then it was immediately like, oh, but he got dishonorably discharged. They use that within the thing that they're doing, so they justified the fact that they were using it. I don't consider him as somebody, quote unquote, in the military. He was there for a cup of coffee. He got dishonorably discharged. Now, mind you, he was a different person back then, what his situation was, and I know a lot of good people who were dishonorably discharged. And mind you, the dishonorably discharged thing covers so many things. It covers so many things. So it's not as cut and dry as dishonorably, oh, well, he punched a cow in the face. You know what I mean? But that cow was wearing a general's uniform. Like, it's not that serious sometimes. In a lot of cases, there are, but that, goes further up the court-martial ladder.
Well, okay, well, how about this?
Sure.
When originally he was supposed to be in a Marine movie and they pulled him out for that reason. Do you agree with that decision?
I understand why. I wouldn't care because, again, he would be acting. But I understand why the producers of the movie or the movie would go, hey, I don't even want to deal with the people who would be upset with this. Let's not even. It's so much easier to go, no, you're out, you're in.
Right. Let's
So
put in
much
The Miz.
Hey, he did well for himself with it.
I'll take your word because I've never seen a Marine movie, so I'll just go ahead.
The first one's pretty good. I think I got through a portion of the second. I didn't even. There's like 12 of them.
Yeah.
They're like the Wayans brothers. They're everywhere.
There have been a few questions I have with certain personnel because now we're talking about people representing the military. But how about like Lacey Evans? Lacey Evans always confused me because they didn't play into it. She was on the main roster as a Southern Belle character. They didn't play until later. And then once that happened, they just stopped talking about her.
Yeah.
She just disappeared. I figured that would have been a center point of her character. Even though I will say, and I know not everybody agrees with this, I like the Southern Belle character.
Sure.
I like gimmicks. I like personalities.
I thought she was great.
I thought she was really good at that. Especially the thing with the Mountie.
It was perfect.
Oh my goodness. And same thing with Bobby Lashley. There's like other people in the military that they just kind of glaze over. And I wonder why they don't play into it more.
It could either be that the athlete is not comfortable being the face and being the representative in their company for every military member, because much like in a lot of other smaller communities, there is a certain expectation of if you're representing one, you speak for all.
Oh.
And that's not the case.
Right.
And also, let's be fair, the military is a polarizing thing for some folks.
Yes.
Especially now, more so than ever, when there's not a war going on. It's like, I don't care about that this guy was in the military. That's how some people have that sort of idea about it. But they mention it when it's applicable, but they don't ham-fist it. With the Lacy thing, they mentioned it throughout on her way up, but they didn't put the focus on it until they needed something. That was the break glass in case of emergency.
But that's exactly my point about Bobby. Now, they have brought it up, as you mentioned.
Several times.
And I think his work in the Hurt Business was great, as well as Beatdown Clan and Impact and all that. But when he first came back to WWE, I felt he was in a real extreme lack of personality mode.
Yeah.
And I just kind of figured they'd lean into something with him.
I think they thought that his equity from his previous run would have carried over immediately. But mind you, he had been gone for a very long time. So for the hardcore fans and the people who stuck through it, they got it. They knew. That's Bobo. I'm in. Let's go, Bobo. Sure. But for a lot of people during that period of time, they left. watching wrestling. There's an entire gap from when Bobby left to when he came back that they lost swaths of people, wrestling as a whole, to just, I don't really like what's going on. So how would they know that? They don't have that sort of equity anymore.
And even though his work and impact was good,
yeah,
let's be real here. Who saw it?
Yeah, I mean, again, hardcore wrestling fans or fans who consume as much of multiple products as they can.
They almost seemingly leaned into his MMA background more than the military background, which, in my opinion, is a misstep.
I mean, you could do both, but I think it was the immediacy of the MMA thing because he was still actively doing it.
Right.
You know, he wasn't still actively in the military or doing things in the military where they can kind of, because you can shoot videos of him training MMA. You can shoot vignettes and talk about, oh, well, he's going to fight in Bellator this week, catch him on Impact the next week. You can do that. You can't just be like, well, look at him crawling in pig guts. Like,
I understand, but I think the issue with Bobby is that his personality. And I think there are certain inherent traits that come with the belief that someone is in the military, like certain personality traits, like, you know, bravery,
Tropes,
honor. And MMA is not a personality type. There's nothing affiliated with this guy necessarily inherently.
Well, for non-MMA fans, sure. But for MMA fans, there's the warrior spirit. There's the thing of like, these guys are gladiators.
I'm not going to get into the whole fighting spirit thing because wrestling has ruined that term. So
sure,
that doesn't mean anything anymore.
But I'm saying in MMA, it's still there for their fan base, which again, WWE is trying to attract. They're trying to attract combat sports fans.
Oh.
And they attracted the biggest combat sports company.
Right. Well, they're there.
They did something right.
The last thing we're going to talk about is my big revelation that I found out somehow recently. You, Rex, by the way. Yeah, he's the one who told me. He knows what he did.
Did you tell him Santa Claus isn't real?
Just about. So Sergeant Slaughter turns out not to be an actual Marine. I did not know this until maybe a couple of months ago. So I'm still mad about it. So process the. So yes, please. What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Well, I found out as a teenager. When the internet became a thing, it was just like, oh, okay.
I just took it for granted he was a G.I. Joe for crying out loud. I took the whole thing for granted.
My brain went from, oh, he's not in the military to like, huh? To, oh, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? Like they were able to get, it shows the ability and creativity when a machine is around you, when you have ancillary things outside of just the in-ring product. Like a toy deal, like a cartoon, like things like that, that it became this thing where you believed it because they played into the character.
And he looks the part. I mean, what other gimmick would you give that guy?
I mean, let's be fair. He looked that part of the time. After that he would have been bounced out of the military. He would not have passed the tape test.
But I mean,
right out.
The chin, he's got that perfect chin.
Oh, sure. Two of them, in fact.
And he looks good with the hat and the glasses. And again, so you're not remotely.
I don't care. Like, again, I'll go back to this. Tom Hanks wasn't a toy cowboy. Why would cowboys be mad?
All right, well, how about this? Are there inaccuracies in Sergeant Slaughter's persona that give him away?
Well, because he didn't really do much.
Sure.
If we're being honest, it was just you maggot. Like he didn't really do much.
But is that real?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The things that I've been called and the things that I've called other people in the heat of training and the heat of battle cannot be repeated on this platform.
Stephen James, thank you so much for appearing. Of course. It's a pleasure having you as always. And let us know, where can we find more of you with your excellent Twitch stream? Please tell everybody more about you.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you can go to twitch.tv/HM Radio Live. I do a comedy radio show, 2 hours with my broadcast partner, Mr. Danny Axel. And of course, Catalyst Wrestling, which we are on our way to after this.
That's right.
Check it out on YouTube. Gas Digital, all those things.
I want to give a big thank you to Steve for appearing on this episode, and I want to thank all of you for watching, as well as thanking all my amazing Patreon supporters. Thanks again, and as always, Dave knows.